to help us reach our financial goals. Freedom, financial freedom. Because
Well,
we already you already explained perfectly how it's possible. You know what I
sure.
mean? The same way if we have that magic fork, right? Hey, losing 25
Hey man,
pounds,
don't
30
don't
pounds,
take my
that's
idea, man. I'm gonna figure it out someday, and if I find out you stole it, I'm hunting you down.
hey, fair enough, fair enough.
Y'all heard it here live for the first
Right,
time,
that's
okay?
right. Live, live. He's serious. So look, we don't know on the fitness side, but we know on the finance side that that is possible.
Yeah.
But how do we access that, right?
All right, good question. All right, so first I'm gonna say, listen, I 100% understand this, and I've heard it many times. People say, "Oh, it sounds too good to be true." My answer to that is two things: it's good, it's true, and we can prove it because it is math. It's not magic, right? I'm not telling you to drink this shake and you're going to lose 10 pounds. I'm telling you 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. I don't care what anybody says. Math does not lie. Numbers do not lie. People lie all the time. So that's number one. Number two, what we're currently doing in most cases, or what we've been taught to do or conditioned to believe, should actually be too bad to be true. But it's not. When somebody thinks they've got a 3, 4, or 5% mortgage, they're like, well, yes, historically very low. And we're like, oh, let's peel back the onion a little bit and let's evaluate what your total interest percentage is, how much interest volume. And they're like, wait a minute, how could it be 64%, 71%? Because that's what you're really paying. And so the whole focus is, why is that not too bad to be true? It's only been the last handful of years where banks even disclosed that. Used to just be the truth in lending statement. Here's your APR. Note rate is what your payment's based on. APR is your annual percentage yield. It's all the cost loaded into an interest rate for disclosure purposes. But then they show you're going to pay back 1.5, 2 times the amount of the debt. But people kind of, oh, okay, that's a lot, but I'm never going to live there that long. Now that they show the tip, that total interest percentage, they're seeing how much that is actually costing them in terms of percentage. So when you say I'm going to make a payment and 60, 70, 80% of what I just paid goes totally to interest that I'll never see and touch again, whoo, that gets high. Okay. So here's the
Right.
key. We've made this accessible to just about everybody. Two caveats. It's not magic, it's math, right? So it's not magic fairy dust. If there's somebody that owns a home, great. We've got a solution for you. If somebody doesn't own a home, we have a solution for you. If you're somebody that owns 99 properties, we've got a solution for you. We can help anybody with debt, but not everybody with debt, right? In other words, if they have no job, no money, no income, again, it's not magic, right? This is not, a fairy tale, right? But even if they have $1 consistently of net discretionary income, we can begin to leverage that through this system. And there are multiple ways for people to be able to utilize it, right? We can get through that in more detail on a separate basis, but it absolutely is something that for the first time in history is now available to the masses. And I say this because growing up outside Detroit, didn't, grow up with a lot of wealthy people and so forth. Wealthy people, and not to vilify them, I think that's a little too easy for us to do. It's like vilifying, Miss Universe because she's beautiful, or vilifying somebody because they're successful. I think we do a little bit too much of that. And if we're being honest, it's a little bit just hating on people, right?
Right.
Because we're kind
Right.
of jealous. Just
Right.
okay to admit that. But what we begin to see happening is that if you're wealthy, and many people have worked hard to earn to be wealthy, so God bless them for that. But you have access to highly knowledgeable, capable, and successful financial planners, advisors, CPAs, wills and trust attorneys. There's a whole bunch of people flocking after you. Folks, if you're the average middle American family, you're shut out. Yeah, you can go online and read this thing and watch this thing, and those are ideas and concepts and theories, and that's wonderful. But you don't have anybody you don't have a dedicated financial planner. A lot of people are just doing their own taxes. What if you could actually have a financial coach, a virtual financial coach that you could access 24 hours a day that could go home with you?
Mm.
What if we could make that available to the average person? Now, even the scope of velocity banking, I love the concept. The math is brilliant. Not everybody can necessarily qualify for that on the mortgage side of that equation, that strategy.
Right.
But even those that can't can now utilize our strategy to be able to help them bank like a bank. And even those that do can now adjunct use this technology, this platform to now measure and manage the impact of what they're doing to stay on track and understand where they are on the scope of those things. So I hope that maybe was helpful in terms of that answer, and be happy to add any more to that you'd like.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I love the part where you said that even if you don't have a mortgage, it'll
Yeah.
still help you to bank like a bank. Because guess what?
Yep.
If you're challenged in that area of not having a mortgage yet, and perhaps you want one,
Hmm.
what does this tool help you do? I mean, you've seen it, right?
Hmm.
You know about the system. You now know that there is an automated velocity banking system, right?
Yep.
What does that do? Well, it gets you from not being able or having a challenge of even getting a mortgage to being able to
Yeah.
get the mortgage,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because now you're banking like a bank. So so what is the limit for you then? Now that you have the practically the tools that are now in your backyard to start living out your dreams, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for you when you're out of debt? And
Yeah.
this is something that you can answer. You can answer right now. You know, you got a bunch of you online right now. You can answer. Go ahead and type it in. What does that look for you? Look, what does that look like for you? You're no longer in debt. I heard someone else say, "Hey, what does it look like after debt?" Right? Life after debt. Well, it looks beautiful. You got all the cars paid for, you got your mortgage paid for, you got and there's one fellow who says it's okay to have a mortgage. Well, that's not what we believe on this channel.
Right.
Not not now that we can pay it off in way less than 30 years.
Well, let me add some of
Right?
that too, by the way.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive strategies, right? In other
Mm,
words, just like GPS, if you just type it in blindly, it's going to say go from point A to point B this way. On the other hand, most people don't really think a lot about this. In fact, most people don't even mess with the settings, but you can prioritize shortest route, fastest route, avoid toll roads, avoid highways, essentially, i.e., take the scenic route. You can do that with managing finances too. So, first and foremost, do I think for the vast majority of Americans, 70, 80%, that eliminating debt, particularly consumer debt, is by far and away their best strategy, mentally, emotionally, circumstantially, financially. Okay. And also there's other factors there. But then you could say mortgage debt, sure. I think freedom comes with not owing anybody anything, especially when you understand what's really costing you. On
right.
the other hand, there are people that are investors, real estate investors, where their focus is, I want to increase my cap rate. And not everybody's going to, follow that word track, but that is, we can reduce the amount of real cost effective shit, they can increase their cap rate. But yes, there are those people that, whether it's Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant or it's other people, whether it's, there's a lot of people that have strategies. And here's the beautiful thing. We're not saying advocating for or against any of them in particular. Here's the difference. Our program is neutral. It's Sweden. It's ubiquitous. It says you can customize this to be as aggressive
Hmm.
or as passive as you want. You can go 80 on the highway or you can take the scenic road along the beach, but it's going to readjust according to your objectives. Maybe your goal is, I do want to dedicate more money here, there, or otherwise, and it'll recalibrate to help you do it. That's an important thing. So even
That's
though
very important.
ideologically I'm with you, I think for the vast majority of Americans, not owning anybody anything, the sense of psychological and emotional freedom and peace of mind that gives you is way beyond the math, even if the math supports it. My mother's older now. I know this is a real factor for people, okay? Especially if something comes up as a life emergency, or you get divorced, or you're older. Life happens and it doesn't care about math. It doesn't care about your opinion, okay? That's an important factor. But it's not mutually exclusive, CJ. There's a lot of ways that they could either use it to say, my goal is to get out of debt as absolutely quickly as possible. I don't care if I eat paper.
Hmm.
Okay. But we're saying you probably don't even have to make any substantial or even significantly measurable differences to your lifestyle. It's a matter of leveraging every dollar you have, every day you have it till you spend it, to do one of two things: to either reduce the amount of interest you're paying, or to be able to build wealth and accumulation as quickly as possible, or a combination of both.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Or somebody says, hey, I want to accumulate properties and I want to leverage this, that, and the other. There's an argument for that too. But the point is, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make with whatever strategy you ultimately are trying to accomplish, but you can't go into it blind. Most of us
Right.
aren't mathematical financial computers in our head. We don't have an abacus. Most people listening to this have no idea what an abacus probably is. They think I'm a total nerd. They don't have a Texas Instrument DA financial calculator. And even if you have all that stuff, there's this thing called, I don't know, life. Like we have to work, take the kids to soccer practice. We're not sitting around in front of spreadsheets 24-hour days. Even if we did, they don't recalculate. It's all a matter of how do we automate things to make them simpler, more efficient, more effective, and more user friendly. And I want to piggyback off one last thing you said. This is personal to me. My dad used to say it before he passed away many years ago. The road to hell is paved in good intentions, right? Not saying that from
Yes.
a spiritual standpoint, just a reality that
Right.
we don't, our kids that, I'll save my daughter here. Our kids that do dumb things didn't plan on doing it, and neither did we. But it
Right.
doesn't change the fact that we're all forced to face the consequences of what we've done. And you said it a minute ago. I hope this wasn't lost. And I really throw this out there to the audience too, because most people just don't even let themselves think about it. We don't want to think about things we think aren't possible. It's like saying, what would I do if I won the lottery? Oh, that sounds great. But if you live in that reality and buy 100 lottery tickets a day, you're probably not going to win and you're just going to go broke. But what would it be like if you were totally and completely debt free? You woke up tomorrow and you didn't owe anybody anything. Now, the question is, first of all, what could you do? Well, the obvious answer is whatever the heck you want. But more specifically, really, what would that feel like? What would you do? Where would you go? What would you buy, maybe? Who would you help? And how would you look at the possibilities of your future now? And I'm not talking about something 20, 25, 30, 40 years down the road. That's so far we can't even relate to it,
Right.
right? Our kids think if we're 20, 25 years older, we're out of touch because we're a different generation.
Hmm.
But 6, 8, 10 years, CJ, we can see that.
Right.
There's a great adage that says old age is always 10 years older than you are. Well, now that we're older, we know that to be true. And it's the same way. Most people think the future is never going to get here, and it comes a lot faster than we think.